Muchas gracias a todos por venir. Me llena de orgullo ver este teatro lleno hasta arriba. Estoy seguro que los fundadores de la escuela hubieran estado orgullosos también hace 70 años de verlos a todos aquí. Estuve mirando algunos datos de Chile en 1953, el año en que se fundó la escuela, y es impresionante cómo las cosas han cambiado. En 1953, las mujeres, por ejemplo, habían votado por primera vez en una elección presidencial recién en septiembre del año anterior, en Chile. La población de Chile eran 5,9 millones de personas y nuestro producto per cápita era 1/10 del producto actual. En el mundo acaba de terminar, o se firmaba el armisticio de la guerra de Corea. Chile era otro país. La escuela era una pequeña casa en Recreo, en Viña del Mar, la Escuela de Negocios de Valparaíso. Pero hay algunas cosas que no han cambiado. Lo lamento, rector, usted es hincha de la Universidad de Chile, pero el año 53 Colo-Colo también era campeón de la primera división del fútbol profesional en Chile. Y estuve mirando algunas citas para esta apertura y me di cuenta que en 1953 Winston Churchill recibió el Premio Nobel de Literatura. Y hay una cita de Winston Churchill sobre la empresa privada que me parece muy apropiada para hoy. Dijo así Churchill: algunas personas ven a la empresa privada como un tigre depredador al que hay que abatir. Otros la miran como una vaca que pueden ordeñar. No suficientes personas la ven como el caballo que tira del vagón. En nuestra escuela, desde 1953, yo creo que compartimos en lo grueso esa mirada de Winston Churchill. Creemos firmemente en la fuerza creadora única que tienen los negocios para resolver problemas y mejorar la vida de las personas. Hoy, en un mundo que, como dijo el rector, cambia aceleradamente, que enfrenta enormes desafíos y en el que se abren también enormes oportunidades, hoy, cuando muchos cuestionan el rol de la libre empresa, más que nunca necesitamos de los negocios tirando el carro. Enfrentamos desafíos sociales, tecnológicos, ambientales, políticos muy complejos que va a ser imposible resolver, eso creemos nosotros, sin el espíritu innovador y emprendedor de los negocios desplegado en muchas organizaciones. Solo los negocios pueden movilizar de forma virtuosa talento, capital y conocimiento a la escala y a la velocidad que se requiere para hacer de esos desafíos oportunidades de mejorar la vida de las personas, generar prosperidad y dejarle un mundo mejor a las futuras generaciones. Para eso necesitamos líderes de negocios, emprendedores, curiosos, que piensen éticamente, analíticos, para que creen y conduzcan organizaciones y desarrollen un círculo virtuoso de valor y confianza con la sociedad. Formar esos líderes y a través de la investigación contribuir al mejor desempeño de las empresas ha sido desde el origen la motivación de nuestra escuela y yo estoy confiado que va a seguir siendo por 70 y 70 y 70 años más en el futuro. Pero como el entorno cambia, nuestra escuela también cambia. Por eso tenemos que ir cambiando los énfasis, estamos dedicando cada día más fuerza a involucrar el quehacer de la escuela en cambio climático, por ejemplo. Estamos convencidos que el cambio climático va a transformar muchas industrias y que necesitamos entregar a nuestros alumnos y a través de la investigación a las empresas nuevas herramientas para lidiar con esa amenaza y hacer de los negocios una fuerza para abordar ese desafío. Estamos también trabajando en fortalecer los vínculos de la empresa con la sociedad. Hoy las empresas están más desafiadas que nunca a construir vínculos de valor con todos los factores relevantes para así hacer sostenibles sus actividades en el largo plazo. Y por último, estamos esforzándonos cada día más por impregnar nuestro currículum y nuestra investigación de las tendencias que está generando la disrupción tecnológica. Quiero aprovechar de pasar un aviso. Yo creo veo varios aquí jóvenes que acaban de rendir la prueba de admisión. Es una broma, no hay nadie que tenga 18 años. Pero son todos muy jóvenes, ¿no? Pero vamos a lanzar este año, para admitir en marzo del próximo año, una nueva carrera, la primera vez que la escuela hace esto desde su fundación en 1953, una nueva carrera que se va a llamar Ingeniería en Negocios y Tecnología, que va a combinar nuestra formación de artes liberales con una sólida formación cuantitativa, con formación en administración, en management y en data y tecnología. Así es que los que tienen hijos, sobrinos, hermanos, los invito a que se informen de esa nueva carrera. Y porque la tecnología creemos es cada vez más importante para el mundo de los negocios, es que nos pareció importante tener a la invitada que tenemos hoy. Voy a presentarla, ella va a dar su charla en inglés y después de eso vamos a tener los dos una conversación en inglés también. Hay traducción simultánea para los que prefieran. Valentine es fundadora y directora ejecutiva de AI Impact Alliance, una ONG que fundó en 2017 y que ofrece consultoría y estudios en gobernanza de datos e inteligencia artificial. Es parte del Consejo Asesor de Inteligencia Artificial de Canadá y experta de Naciones Unidas en política y gobernanza de inteligencia artificial. Es abogada de formación y tiene estudios en ciencia política, sociología y teatro. Es mediadora certificada y curadora de arte. Es una líder reconocida globalmente en la ética de la inteligencia artificial, innovación inclusiva, igualdad de género y economías digitales. Ofrece a distintos actores análisis sobre nuevos marcos regulatorios para la inteligencia artificial y previsiones sobre sus implicancias socioeconómicas. Entre muchas otras cosas, podría estar toda la mañana leyendo su CV. Ha hecho numerosas publicaciones y trabajos en política pública. Es una exitosa charlista y profesora y ha recibido numerosos reconocimientos y premios. Valentine, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. It's my second time in Santiago. Last time was in January 2020, just before the pandemic, after the social unrest. I met so many amazing people when I was here at Congreso Futuro, and this time alone, in less than 48 hours, I already met a lot of amazing people. I said the theme of the topic, sorry, the theme today was already introduced extremely well by the speakers previously, by Juan Carlos and the Dean. In short, what I would like to talk about, I just need to know where the clicker is. So we're going to be talking about how AI is redefining business and how we can harness AI's potential for good. Indeed, it has risks, it can save lives, AI can kill, it can drive business forward, it has huge potential in terms of GDP increase. So how can we harness that potential for sustainable futures, for growth, for green economy? I will talk about, a lot of people ask questions about what about ethics? Should we regulate? Should we not regulate? What is the importance of regulation? So I will introduce that and talk about partnerships in AI and how we can work together, government, business, and civil society to achieve fruitful partnerships in AI that lead us in the right direction. So let's start by defining artificial intelligence. I don't know how many people in the room are familiar with the technicalities. Some of you maybe, may not. So I'll start by defining artificial intelligence as well as what the difference is with generative AI, and I'll give some quick numbers to set the stage on artificial intelligence. So there are diverging definitions of AI. This is the definition that Canada chose in its proposed AI and Data Act. So it's basically a technology that can autonomously or semi-autonomously process data related to humans, related to its environment, that uses different forms of algorithms, neural networks, machine learning, deep learning, to generate information or to make decisions, make recommendations, or assist in decisions. What is generative artificial intelligence? How many people in the room know about ChatGPT? Just quick raise of hands. Okay, we've got a familiar crowd, that's good. So I think the word generative AI didn't exist in January. It's a new word that people have started using. Basically what it refers to is a technology AI system that uses large language models using a lot of data in order to be able to create text, images, and video. That will create, so generative AI refers to the capacity to produce text. When we talk about multimodal AI, just a slight difference, that is when we're combining text and image and video to generate all three together. So I put a little image there that was generated by DALL-E using an image that I produced. So I used some of my art, put it into the system, and it produces different variations of your own art. So kind of a lot of fun to play with. I just wanted to give everyone just a sense of what the difference is, and when we're talking about large language models, how much kind of data and parameters what that means. For those of you who are a bit more technical, BERT used to be the basic standard in terms of using text to image generation. GPT-2, and all the way to ChatGPT-3 that everybody seems to know about, and GPT-4, you can see the incredible exponential increase of amount of data that it uses to produce text and images. So I'm not sure how to start the video, so I'm looking at the tech crew in the back. But I thought before we go into AI and numbers, I do just a quick side note that AI can also enhance your parenting using generative AI. So let me see if I can make this work. No. Tech crew support. Oh, okay, it plays but doesn't play the sound. Okay, I'll just mimic it. This is me using generative AI technology, talking to my son, telling him to clean up his room. He wasn't listening when it was just me, so I thought generative AI might be exponentially helpful for my parenting. So AI and numbers. AI, maybe some of you already know this, but could increase global GDP by 14% by 2030. And when we add the use of generative AI by using both combined, we could add an equivalent of 7% in that growth and lift productivity by 1.5% points over a 10-year period. Other numbers, it can contribute to 15.7 trillion to the global economy. I just wanted to compare that. It is more than the current output of China and India put together. Estimates can double if we include the impact of embedding generative AI into the software. So that's a slight distinction. We can get into examples perhaps at the end during the discussion period, or you can, for those of you who are curious of how to integrate that into your business, if you're already using AI and you want to see how you can use APIs to use generative AI into your software, that's where generative AI comes as an added value to AI itself, which already has a lot of potential value. Who wins big in this game? Who are the best positioned to be able to profit from this use? Banking, high-tech, life sciences were quoted by McKinsey in a recent report as the most likely to be able to grasp the benefits. A lot of it might have to do with the data infrastructure that they already have in place. That can definitely be very helpful. So other industries that already have good data infrastructure in place are the ones who can grasp the potential the soonest. Common areas of application: customer operations, marketing, sales, software engineering, and research and development. I like to insist more on the software engineering and the research development because that's what aligns the most with the use of AI for good and AI for sustainability. One more, we've heard about ChatGPT and DALL-E. There's also generative AI for coding. Generative AI for coding is making the capacity to code a lot more accessible, democratizing, if we want to use that word. We've tested it in AI Impact Alliance's team. You still need to be a decent coder to be able to review the code that it gives back to you, but this is progressing extremely rapidly and is extremely exciting because it makes coding and AI more accessible to everyone. Now, what does AI mean in the digital economy? I think this is really important to relink to the last part of the presentation. I will bring this slide back at the end So we need to be able to position where AI is in this digital economy and green economy moving forward. It accounts for 25% of the global GDP and as much as 50% of value creation moving forward. ICT, and for the translator who's stuck translating for me, information communication technology, those type of services have increased 14% of total services exports worldwide. We can see in the graph to the side, that is data transfer through machines and the incredible increase over the past years up to 2020, and the projections are, the curve just keeps going up. So now I want to focus on what my area of work tends to be in, which is more the use of responsible AI, sustainable AI, and how we can make that happen. So what is the potential? We were talking about green economy earlier. AI can contribute, is already saving lives, is already contributing to solving world challenges. Very quick overview, it can improve our capacity to diagnose cancer. Different types of cancers can be diagnosed faster. With the use of precision medicine, we will be able to tailor the type of chemotherapies that we give to certain patients to improve recovery. Drug recovery, disease prediction, clinical support, also uses in different hospitals. One of the best hospitals in Canada is currently using AI for triage. So where to place patients in order of priority. In the financial sector, fraud detection, corruption detection, impact assessments, risks assessments, financial advice through different uses of chatbots to customers, and so on. In terms of climate change, simulate climate-related risks, develop different strategies and preparedness plans. And the last one is more in terms of sustainable architecture, building designs, and that is actually in one of my examples. I hope this is not too small, but these are different examples that I chose of existing startups in Canada that are using AI for social good and for sustainability, for a green economy. And so when we're talking about buildings, BrainBox AI is doing very well, generating a lot of investments and expanding globally. And what they do is they make energy use in buildings more efficient. Expert-C uses aquaculture, AI in aquaculture in the supply chain, so they optimize the supply chain. My Intelligent Machines uses AI in pharmacology in terms of developing more accurate simulations. Aquatix and Can are two different startups. They use AI in the efficient use of water systems, and they help industry use AI more efficiently. Drone des Champs, which is in French, and there's another startup that I just found out about in the area of Vancouver in vertical agriculture. So the use of AI in agri-tech is increasing, and the potential is phenomenal to help grow food in the time of food insecurity in remote areas. I come from Quebec, it's minus 30 in the winter sometimes. So this particular industry is increasing our production of strawberries, because Quebecers love strawberries. So they've actually raised $60 million recently to increase the capacity in their business. Whale Seeker uses computer vision to prevent collision with whales. So their technology identifies whales in high traffic areas of navigation. The last ones, I love Chilean honey. Last time I was here, it was summer. It smells so good outside, And I bought 2 pots of honey at the supermarket. I went home, I opened the honey, I was like, oh my God, it smells like chili. So I wanted to give you this example. Nectar Buzz is a Quebec business that uses AI precision technology to help beekeepers optimize their honey production. So maybe they have some customers to help make more chili and honey so I can bring more home. Part 3. Part 3, we will be able to get into a little bit deeper, I hope, but I wanted to at least give an overview here of how business can be a partner in responsible artificial intelligence and why regulation can help industry adopt AI responsibly and move in that right direction. So in that situation, because I'm from Canada, I will introduce Canada's AI and Data Act. This slide I introduced for those of you who are familiar and might be curious to look more into this, but why regulate in this tumultuous times geopolitically? Regulatory guardrails boost economic growth potential, and this economic literature really focuses on rule-based, this is a mouthful, rule-based digital services market openness. So how we can have rule-based digital markets and trade within the boundaries of regulatory guardrails, such as patents, for example, will increase our capacity to trade and unlock future economic growth. So it's in that spirit that Canada proposed Bill C-27, which is the nicknamed IDA. So if you hear me talking about IDA, it's not my sister, it's the AI and Data Act. IDA aims to boost the Canadian digital economy as well as the partnerships it has in trade with other countries in a modernized legal framework. How? By setting standards that industry can follow, manage the risks that AI presents while supporting innovation, while supporting small businesses in their adoption and their positive use, beneficial use of artificial intelligence. So setting standards for AI systems to promote trade and commerce while safeguarding citizens' privacy, human rights, and shared values. And lastly, recognize, it's hard to read in that blue color, I'm terribly sorry. Basically what that says in the last part is it's important in that act, in the preamble of the law, and throughout the law to recognize existing international agreements and international laws, for example, in terms of human rights that already exist. Quick overview of what IDA does. It requires that persons is defined quite largely, and of course includes business, to adopt measures to mitigate the risks, avoid harm and biased outputs of high impact systems. Provide for public reporting. Public reporting will be necessary. Establish prohibitions relating the possession of illegally obtained personal information for the purpose of designing, developing, using, or making available for use and managing AI systems, if, of course, that causes serious harm. If there's no harm done, we're all good. 3 key concepts that are not yet defined in detail in the Act. So the way the legislative process works in Canada is if the law is adopted, we will then move on to the adoption of regulations per different sector to complement existing laws per each sector. So for example, in the health sector, there are numbers of laws in place that already protect citizens and ensure ethical research is done ethically. So at the time of the adoption of the regulations, these 3 key concepts will be defined more in detail and adapted to each sector. So what is a high-impact AI system? That criteria will be defined. But we could imagine that something that aims to influence everybody's behavior or target a certain population could be considered a high-impact system. What is harm, for example? It includes psychological, physical harm to a person as well as economic loss. So if there is massive loss of jobs in female workers between the age of 20 and 25, that system might be evaluated if they're using AI in human resources, for example. If a certain, that could be an example of harm. Bias, I'm sure everyone is familiar with the concept of bias, so there's really nothing different if that use of that AI system attacks a certain population based on what is defined as prohibited grounds of discrimination, then that would be considered bias. Accountability, so who is a person? A person is a trust, a joint venture, a partnership, other legal entity, and that person would be responsible through the design, the development, making use, and managing its operation. A lot of people are very worried about this part of the section. They say, so anybody is responsible at any time from the design to the output of the system to the management of the system. We have to keep in mind that this is really only for high-impact systems and something that really causes harm to the population. So this is enabling the use of AI responsibly. I feel this is really like a very, very general overview of the AI and Data Act, and there's a lot of questions. Yesterday I got into a really interesting discussion, and how would that pragmatically be deployed as a law? I'm happy to answer questions during our chat later on. AI and digital economy. So the digital economy heavily relies on the flow of information across borders, and countries that have regulations and policies in place increase that flow and the capacity to trade. So this is the slide I said I was going to bring back at the end. Digital economy, we remember, is 25% of global GDP and as much as 50% of value creation going forward. What's different from this slide is I wanted to emphasize that since the attack on Ukraine, trade barriers have become are gradually closing down. I think I missed it. Trade barriers have been gradually increasing. Yes, okay, that's the right sentence I want to put there. So those trade barriers are going down. Are we moving? That's some question that I just want to throw out there. Are those trade barriers increasing? For what reason? Are they partnership-oriented? And if so, are they sustainability-oriented partnerships? The US, the EU, China and India have adopted different trade policies strategically for national, industrial, and trade interests. So there's trade interests, but there's the interest of the planet. So as we celebrate 70 years of excellent education moving forward, the next generation and our kids, what kind of planet do we want to leave them with? Do we want to have trade policies and digital economy partners that focused on green economy? Obviously, I vote for number 2. Aligning AI with green economy through partnerships. How many people in the room are familiar with DIPA, which is the Digital Economy Partnership Agreement? Okay, awesome. This is great. I encourage you to go have a look at it after the talk if you're interested, because Chile was the innovator in that sense. Chile, New Zealand, and Singapore struck up this agreement to support small, medium enterprise. I think they started in 2019, was finally adopted in 2020. Canada has recently submitted an application to join this economic partnership. That evaluation is in process right now. I think this is an amazing partnership that could be an opportunity to set standards and good practices and patent rules that favor the use of AI and data, data governance and data sharing with green economy and prosperous growth ahead in mind. I wanted to underscore and celebrate with you. We're celebrating the 70th of UAI. I also want to celebrate with you because I'm here, the 20th anniversary of the Canada-Chile Free Trade Agreement. Ever since the adoption of that agreement, trade between Chile and Canada has exponentially grown, and I really hope that through the digital economy partnership that we continue growing that trade together and use AI for sustainable purposes. Just to show off a little bit, Canadians are very polite, they don't show off, so I'm gonna go off trend. Canada has ranked first for its government strategy in terms of artificial intelligence. It ranked 5th for operational environment. Operational environment is everything from talent management, talent retention, good quality education, the environment in which a business operates. So it ranked for 5th worldwide for its operation environment, 5th for the most attractive country in terms of high-skilled workers. And a lot of people think people move to the States when they have AI talent, AI PhDs. Canada saw the opposite. We had what we call a brain gain, not a brain drain. A lot of people were leaving the States to come to Canada to work in artificial intelligence. That was helped by an immigration policy that Canada put in place. Quebec, which is one of Canada's provinces, where Mila AI Research Center is based, ranked 5th for academic research. Vector in Toronto and AMI in Edmonton are also amazing AI research centers, and ranked 7th globally for AI talent. I know Chile has talent, so again, I'm going back to my hope that we would be able to align AI with green economy through partnerships and work together on those elements. Just a last couple of words in terms of collaboration and partnerships and trust. We're talking, Juan Carlos was talking about the importance of business leading the way, leading innovation so that we can adopt AI responsibly. I often advocate for what is called tri-sectoral collaboration. Tri-sectoral collaboration meaning government, industry, academia, but also civil society organizations. And that's a lot of the work that I do is bridging that engagement with citizens, with different sectors, and bringing that into policy and regulatory innovation that facilitate artificial intelligence. Very important in terms of trust. Canada, for example, suffers a lack of trust. I think globally in general, the trust in democratic institutions is dwindling, and business really has an important role to play. Maybe we can continue that during our chat after, in terms of rekindling that trust with civil society in AI innovation. So that's it. That is my organization. I thank you very much and look forward to our questions.
Thank you so much for that great talk. I have to confess I have many questions, as I'm sure the audience has. But the first one I was going to ask, but I think I get a sense of your answer through your talk, is when one reads about AI, you get like people, I mean, all across the spectrum. People who are very positive and optimistic about it, but some people that are very negative and worried about it. You seem to be, I mean, gravitating towards optimism. Talk a little bit about that, because we have, I mean, heard people like Harari who are saying we should stop this for 6 months, study deeper, and then give us a sense of why you are optimistic about this.
Thank you very much for the question. I think it's important to as business leaders to remain head calm, to be the horse, right? What happens when a horse is scared? Nothing good happens, right? We can't be scared. We can't let the narrative of fear that we see in the newspapers impact how we adopt or don't adopt or adopt artificial in our business or how we adopt policies. So that's generally my approach to artificial intelligence is it's a tool. We can do good, we can do bad. Let's remain calm as business leaders, as government, and what can we do moving forward to drive it in the right direction?
Right. I see the positive potential of it, and your talk was very clear about it. But I get the sense that to make sure that it has more a positive than a negative impact, regulation is going to be very important. I worked in government in the past, and I think this is true in Chile and all over the place. The capacity that governments have to react quickly, to mobilize resources, especially around technology, have nothing to do with the capacity that private companies have, right? So when I think about how quickly this is evolving, how much money big tech is investing in AI, and then I look at the government, I say, how can we regulate this animal, let's say, that is moving so quickly? How can governments do that?
Okay, that's a complex question. Every
government,
that's why
I'm asking it.
every government is different. What Canada chose to do in this situation is adopt a legal framework that is flexible enough to adapt to the needs of business and to the needs of protecting citizens. But somehow I'm not sure that's exactly, so how can we regulate or not regulate? Is that your?
So I'm saying this is has an enormous potential, AI.
Yep.
We want to use that potential for positive goals and prevent negative uses of it.
Yep.
So, and I guess regulation plays a big role,
Yep.
I mean, to make that happen.
But it might not be possible.
It might not be possible, right? But
so I think when regulation is not possible at all, I have been approached by business leaders in countries where regulation will not be possible at all for a number of reasons. In that case, industry can lead by adopting agreements amongst businesses. The businesses in the States, that's what big tech recently decided to do.
Right.
They said, we commit to being more transparent, being fair, avoiding bias. They put out 8 different commitments. That is industry-led. There's also...
But sorry, do you trust, I mean, I said in the introduction, we strongly believe in the positive impact that business can have in society. But still, we need to look at those declarations with a grain of salt, right? So business leaders, big tech, are pushing those standards for the public good or to protect their own economic interests?
I'm going to skip over regulation and go straight to impact assessments.
Okay.
Because in light of the AI and Data Act being adopted, the next step is industry will have to, anyway, do impact assessments on a regular basis. This goes back to ESG that most industry they're used to in the health industry and mining. This is an industry standard. And the same kind of obligations are coming anyway if regulations are adopted. So I guess that would be my advice to industry is whether regulation comes or it doesn't come, do the right thing and start evaluating or conceiving impact assessment models that can be transparent. That first, it increases trust in the business's uses of AI.
Right. And that can be done at the company level, I guess, but also business associations can impose
business
those
associations,
standards to
yes,
their members.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when these kind of technologies, emerge, disrupt, in the business world, we always have winners and losers. Do you have a sense of who's going to be? It's hard to tell, but with the information you have, who are going to be the winners and who are going to be the losers?
In terms of industry sector or in terms of countries?
No, it could be countries, industry sectors, and it could be also, what features do business need to develop to be on the winner side?
Okay, this is definitely
It's a very open question.
yes.
Sectors, countries, companies.
Okay, I'm going to say it very, very simply, very directly.
Okay.
The businesses that are going to win are the businesses that save the planet. So the businesses that adopt AI responsibly with the goal of sustainability, one of the 17 United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, will come up as real winners, the kind of winners that we really want to see.
Right. Okay, but let me push back.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me push back a little bit on that. I guess that AI can give a lot of power for marketing, targeted marketing. And what if companies use that power in the negative sense? They could make big profits and could be winners in the financial, sense of it, but not be on what you define as winners. So, and that is a risk, right?
I think what's really important in the question that you're asking is the companies that support democracy, in my opinion, will be the winning organizations. Let me link that back to marketing and the use of AI in marketing. Generative AI, as I was talking about earlier, is already being used to develop new malware, new cyber attacks, fake news to an exponential degree where it's impossible for someone to distinguish whether the video is real or not real. Someone could use my voice. Well, I did the joke with the generative AI parenting, right? I could generate replace myself with a generated model in that sense. But imagine that at a political level, or if you're targeting a certain portion of the population, either because they're of different socioeconomic level, different political beliefs, different age, different vulnerabilities, mental health vulnerabilities, right, and attack how they feel about themselves, attack what they think, how they vote. Those are serious areas of risk that attack really the foundation of society and the foundation of democracy.
I see that. How do we deal with that?
How do we?
Deal with that.
How do we deal with that? I think it's important to understand technically what areas of AI developments could present those areas of risk and have policies in place. Not just regulations, but certain policies. So for example, the use of AI in marketing, in publicly funded research, grant applications will be done, and that research will aim to increase the visibility of a certain product. That research is open source, goes online, is taken and then used to, same AI system, same type of algorithm, is used to attack different portions of the populations. So understanding AI from a technical perspective is very important to be able to prevent the maluses in the first place. Of course, preventing fake news or disinformation is an entire different set of questions.
We're going to go there in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm 47, okay? But I still feel kind of old when I read about AI. I feel like there's a generational gap. And when you look at leadership in most companies, at least in Chile, most people are my age or even older. And I don't see myself as an old guy. But how should those business leaders and political leaders bridge that kind of information gap to be able to learn quickly, to be able to deal with this, emerging technology? What would your recommendation be?
There's so much information.
They build a good team around them.
Yes.
What would you do if you were a business leader?
If I were a business leader, okay, because business management is not my expertise. But if I was managing a business, I would definitely have a team that is dedicated to disseminating knowledge across the teams, multidisciplinary.
Like educating the whole company or organization.
Yes. Or maybe that's more the role of a business association than one company on its own. Okay. Business associations could create diverse sources of knowledge in terms of AI, both technical and the political, economic implications, social implications of AI. So increase the capacity to access that knowledge, take a certain amount of time per day. This is the question of the day. That could be either way.
I heard a podcast, an interview to the head of strategy from Microsoft a couple of months ago. And he said that Microsoft has been tracking in Silicon Valley, startups that are working with AI.
Yeah.
And he said that last fall, they had identified 80 before ChatGPT was released. Last time they checked, like 2 months ago, 8,000. So from 80 to 8,000 startups working with AI. During your talk, you talked about this a little bit, but I want you to talk a little bit more about it. I got the sense initially, when I started reading about this, that AI was going to be a big source of opportunity and value creation for the big tech companies, like the Microsofts, the Googles, and so on. But when I read that, and when I heard you in the talk, you both kind of give the sense that AI could democratize, business in the sense that it will give access to capabilities to small, mid-sized companies that they would otherwise not have without AI. Do you agree with that, or?
Well, first of all, I have a big question about what he explains in that part, because from 80 to 8,000, if, for example, that's after the launch of ChatGPT, Microsoft has a business motivation to try and sell the fact that now there's 8,000 and they're actually supporting SMEs, right? So,
Let's divide it by 10. So it's 80 to 800. It's still a big graph.
Yeah, and there's also, came with ChatGPT and DALL-E a huge hype in the sense that everybody's going to be saying they're using AI. What I think is more important in this is that supporting small, medium businesses, in this case, I'm not sure that's what they're doing in democratizing, in the sense that they're gathering data through the use. So I would invite people and business leaders to look at when you decide to use a generative platform such as ChatGPT, there are other ones, and that you plug it into your existing business. Be very mindful to look at what the IP protection, what the data protection is when you do so. Is it a partnership directly with OpenAI or with Microsoft? Because Microsoft owns a huge portion of the shares of an OpenAI, which does ChatGPT. So let's say Thomson Reuters, who recently did a partnership. Thomson Reuters already has a lot of data, and using a tool like generative AI helps them write articles extremely quickly using the data that they have. Some legal platforms have done that in the past, where they use their huge amount of well-architectured data to plug into a generative AI source. And so it's a huge potential. Is it democratizing the access to generative AI tools? Yes, maybe. The plugin becomes much easier. However, I invite businesses to be very mindful about their intellectual property, and especially the property of their data when they're doing so.
Okay, good. So I want to come back to Yuval Noah Harari, because he and others asked for a pause on giant AI models, he said. There's a letter that I think more than 100 people signed, right? And they say these are, quote, powerful digital minds that no one, not even their creators, can understand, predict, or reliably control. This sense of black box. That sounds scary for me.
Well, it also sounds like, when you go to a bar and you leave your coat in the coat check and it says, we're not responsible for anything that's going to happen to your coat while you're here.
Nothing happened to your coats, usually.
Yeah,
right?
Well, nothing usually happens to your coat, and they're definitely not responsible. So let's go back to the moratorium.
These are smart people, right?
Yeah, and to be really honest, I signed the moratorium.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Okay, go. So talk about, I didn't know that.
But
I didn't check the whole list of people, sorry. So why? Why did you do that?
Okay, I didn't sign it for that reason. It was a long letter.
Okay.
That was not the reason why I signed. It was not a disclaimer of responsibility.
Juicy,
yeah, it was the juiciest one.
Yeah.
There's another thing in there. It's like the digital minds. It's like giving life to a cup. My glass of water is not alive. AI is not alive. Do not humanize AI. AI is data that, and remember the definition. AI is autonomously or semi-autonomously processed data. We have to remember that all the time. We do not humanize it, and it does not take a life of its own. The reason why I signed that letter, there were other parts of the letter where this is very, very important developments in terms of technology, and it really is just the beginning, because if you use generative AI in combination with other scientific let's say the nuclear weapon, so other types of sciences, and there are exponential, like unimaginable right now, risks to humanity in the uses of generative AI systems. So that for me was, was the opportunity to get attention, urgent attention, to critical technological developments, stop and think about it. For me, it was not signing as like, let's really stop. Like, first of all.
Can you do that?
No.
Right?
No.
It's like making nuclear weapons disappear.
No. That was it was a communication strategy. I don't know when they started it. I didn't start it. I signed. So I don't know what their goal was. Like, if they really believed that they could really stop the development of AI in industry and research.
It was a political statement, you say?
It's more a statement, right? And it was, for me, it's an important call to pay attention to the important impacts of these developments.
Okay. Henry Kissinger, in an interview with The Economist in May, incredibly how sharp he is at 100 years old, by the way.
I'm sure he is.
He said something like, if you look at military history, you can say it has never been possible to destroy all your opponents because of limitations of geography and of accuracy. Now there are no limitations. Every adversary is 100% vulnerable. And I think he's referring to the combination of AI and nuclear weapons.
Or newer forms of pandemics, or attacking citizens according to their DNA. If we can target publicity that effectively, we can also target portions of the population based on their DNA. The risks are extremely high that it could eliminate portions of populations that are not next to a computer, that have nothing to do with AI, that have never benefited from the amazing benefits that AI can bring. Kissinger also said that because AI is such a threat, an equivalent, well, you're saying he said it's even worse, but it's an equivalent threat, at least, to humanity.
As nuclear weapons, you say?
As nuclear weapons. Because of that, he believes that it will force us to negotiate and achieve global peace. I thought that was a very interesting statement, because a lot of the history of the geopolitics of artificial intelligence generally say the opposite, that AI might have been one of the underlying causes that led us to the war, the war that we're in right now. So I find it interesting that he presents it as a potential source of negotiation for peace. Whether I agree or not is an entirely different question. I think we talk a lot about AI, but not so much about the data that's generated and the data governance itself and data partnerships, because AI is data-driven decision-making, data-driven recommendations. And I think it's really that amount of data that we have, the quality of the data that we have about our environment, about nature, about biodiversity, that has much more opportunity to save ourselves and to achieve sustainability. And sustainability includes peace, right? It includes human rights.
You talked a little bit about trade barriers during your talk. And we're seeing this tendency to kind of many countries deglobalizing, the global economy, right? Producing and manufacturing things at home, near-shoring, sourcing critical minerals from friendly countries and so on. So kind of detaching the West, let's put it simply, from China, Russia, and others, the bad guys. Just a simplification, right? But you get the point. Yeah. So how should we approach AI in that sense? If this is a powerful tool and we are afraid that in the hands of the bad guys, it can have negative impacts, I see like two possible ways. One, we engage with them, and even though it's going to be hard, we try to devise a global set of rules that we all comply with, even though they will try to tilt that discussion towards wherever they want to move it, A, or B, we kind of build a completely different set of rules, leaving them outside of our set of rules. How do we deal with that? How do we negotiate global rules around AI with Vladimir Putin? How do we do that?
I think this is the question of the day, that we need to continue thinking about and writing about and researching. Rule-based capitalist democracies rely on our capacity to trust that the other party is going to respect the rules.
Yeah, but we know they don't, sometimes.
Yes. So it's not, and again, it's really not about the people, it's really about the governments that are in place and the political systems that, prevent and power plays that are motivating those countries to act in certain ways. But if we're talking to business right now, we're talking to, future MBAs.
Or past MBAs.
Yeah, I know. That was a wink, sorry. The professors in the room who will be talking with future MBAs. I think it's impossible for trust to exist if we cannot establish rules that are respected. And I think that's why we're seeing old digital economy partnerships re-emerge, regain strength in today's economy. And it's not necessarily that there are new rules, but it's different partnerships that say, can I trust you?
Right.
And this is the rule. Are you going to respect it? What kind of measures do you have in place that makes me sure that you're going to respect those rules? Oh, okay, now because this is critical information. This is data that will tell you how to enter into Canada from the north. It's critical information. If I'm trading information about mining in Canada with Chile, and Chile's sharing information about its roads, its mining, its biodiversity, the temperature of the water. Temperature of the water is geopolitical right now. Biodiversity is geopolitical. All that data is geopolitical. So if we want to be able to trade to prevent climate change and protect biodiversity, we need to understand the geopolitical implications of sharing that data.
Okay. I'm going to move to a different subject.
Okay.
So gender. You also mentioned gender inequality. Yesterday we were having a talk and you gave some numbers about gender inequality in AI. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well,
at school, at the university, if you look at Chile, we already have like 50-50, even a bit more, higher than 50% of higher education students are women. That was not true 70 years ago, of course. But if you look at the sciences, that's not the case. But the numbers on AI are impressive. Negatively impressive,
Yes. In artificial intelligence, it depends if we're looking at pure, in academia. For example, in big AI research labs in Montreal, in Canada, about 1 to less than 5% of the professors are women. So over 95% of the professors are men. That says a lot to who then is in the room and how they're teaching. So I wanted to give a very, very concrete example. 6 years ago, when I was getting really, really interested into AI, I used to just go sit into those classes. You're allowed to go sit in those classes. They're kind of open. So I used to sit and listen. And you would see the classroom. There would be one girl out of 150 students in the class, and no female professor at all sitting in front. That one girl was stuck looking at presentations that were explaining how machine learning works, using images and examples of girls in bikinis. Okay? Representation matters. So that if that 1% of professors, it's not enough, we need to increase. So we need to increase the number of students, because those are the research leaders. They decide what areas of AI research we want to focus on, what's worth what it will be worth to industry. Then in industry, in tech industry, generally your statistics go up to maybe, when we're really, really lucky, 20% of the staff will be women. If 20% of staff, technical staff, in an AI business, in a industry that uses AI, are women, they have less capacity to influence, or the other thing is investments, women in AI investments. They receive, I don't have a clear statistics on that, but it's extremely much more difficult for women to access investments for their startups. First of all, women generally statistically tend to want to use AI for sustainability, AI for good, and there's less funding for that because it has less capacity of return on investment. So women in AI business, we need to support their ideas from the start and fund them. Now in existing businesses, if you have 25% only staff, then it's harder to have their voice heard. And then we go into the AI policy and AI governance field, where generally what you need is more of an MBA or a law background or economy or politics background. There still is a minority of women in that field, because there's an overbearing message that because you don't have a degree in AI, you don't have the capacity to do policy and governance in AI. Okay. So it goes from, the funding of the business to the governance of AI. All along that pipeline, we need more gender equality.
Okay, we're late already.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
People want to have a cup of coffee, but
yep.
I have two more questions. I have many more questions. I'm going to ask two more questions.
Okay.
One is about liberal arts, and the second one is about democracy. And we're going to finish on that one. So liberal arts. Our school, our university actually, has a very strong foundation in liberal arts. We strongly believe that whether you're going to become a lawyer, a business leader, a journalist, an engineer, you need a solid foundation on the liberal arts. I saw you wrote about this, or have given an interview about this, how important it is to combine AI and technology with the liberal arts. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Why do you think that's important?
So artificial intelligence is going to have applications in business, in all fields of business. It will have transversal implications for society, all across society. Therefore, you need experts in political economy. You need experts in arts and culture who come in contact. That contact and that exchange between someone who, let's say, is an artist or someone who's a policy expert with an AI expert, that dialogue, we're talking about facilitating faster learning.
Right.
That constant communication and exposure to each other forces teams and learning to understand each other's language. So just one example, policy for me, my husband works as an AI, a data scientist. If I say the word policy, he thinks policy in terms of coding.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just one very simple example in when we communicate with AI experts and liberal arts experts, that common
interface.
language is extremely important. Another very concrete example, as a lawyer, when I was working with a startup, they were looking at doing clusters to look at the clusters in government of policies. So they were looking at all the policies that government adopted and making clusters using natural language processing. And they wanted to see, they say, hey, there's a huge spike here. So as a lawyer, my reflex is, oh, what international agreement was adopted that year to see that spike in policy adoption?
I see.
So if we're not working together, they don't understand what the spike is. They're doing discovery, pure discovery.
Right.
And the domain expert, I like to talk about domain experts, will bring that expertise. And artists bring that same capacity to question and critical thinking. And it brings another extremely important quality in AI adoption, which is the capacity to collaborate. So moving forward, I believe it's UNESCO said creative thinking, collaboration, capacity to work in a team are really the skills of the future that we need to nurture in the age of AI.
Yeah, liberal arts are
Liberal arts
very
are
important to get
essential,
that.
yes.
Yeah. Liberal democracy.
Yes.
We've already seen a trend since 2016 or so, which liberal democracy around the world is starting to plateau, let's use that word, decrease. Is AI going to help that trend or make it worse? Let's try to end on a positive note. Talking about biases.
We'll have to change the question.
No, but my point is, I think there are two sides of that coin, right?
Yes, there's two signs, and let's go back to we're the ones who have holding the reins. We're directing the horse here. Let's make sure that we safeguard democracy, because there is a true risk. There's already a trend. Generative AI is not going to help that trend. We're already seeing harm-intended uses of generative AI aimed at cyber attacks, national security attacks aimed to influence political thinkings, political campaigns. The next political campaigns in Canada and the US, everyone is very concerned about the use of generative AI in that sector. So, but we're in charge, and maybe that goes back to the strength of liberal arts. We need to have that talent, those liberal arts leaders, those management leaders who will really steer the use of AI in that other direction. And we need strong partnerships that will ensure that we use this opportunity, this data partnership opportunity, to really steer the use of AI to revitalize democracy.
That's a pretty good way to finish.
Okay.
Please, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. I would have stayed all morning, but we're out of time. So join me in giving her a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think tenemos un café ahora.